What is up, gentlemen, ladies, probably mostly gentlemen, probably all gentlemen? How are we today? You see how sometimes this can be nice? It could be like a nice intro. It doesn't have to be all, bad. I'm just trying to find good karma in any directions I can these days. Now, I know what you might be thinking, like you're kind of like half clown get up right now. I've worn the nose before. When I wear the nose, though, I basically squeak the entire video. So doing you guys the favor, you're welcome. But yeah, the clown gear's back, as it needs to be, right? I mean, this has kind of been a bad run. A little randomness on a Thursday night for a live video, right? Instead of doing, the usual pick on Thursday. Figure we change it up a bit, right? Can't always be the same thing. I got my Vikings mug. I know what you're thinking. Probably beer in there, right? Wrong. Riesling, white wine. The alphas know. The alphas know. Almost fucking swallowed an ice cube. How is everybody? Anybody? Hello, Bueller. So I'll run through the slate for tomorrow, like I kind of do on a Saturday or Sunday. Give you guys perspective on each game. Also give you, of course, a best bet. Depending on the time you watch, whether it's obviously live now or tomorrow. Hopefully the numbers will be relevant for you, whether I give you, perspective on the lines I see now. And if you get, good value, if you want to touch on certain games. And again, I'll go through each game individually, briefly, and points on the exacts. Ricky Chan, this is the clown gear or the clown getup. Not sure how long you've been following what I do, but every once in a while when the ship isn't steering properly, the clown gear comes out. Because here's what happens. Here's what happens, Ricky. We all, at some point or another, we migrate to who we actually are. Like we could slowly go off on an island for a bit and be somebody we're not. But at the end of the day, our roots are our roots. Okay, 23andMe has come back with me being about 75% clown. Hence why we're here today with the said getup. Hopefully this isn't a thing that's gonna last forever, but we shall see. I'm not sure if you guys can notice this. I kind of blew myself up shaving. Kind of see a little bit of a bloodbath, but you take the lumps. These days I can't do anything right, so it doesn't even matter. I can't do anything right. But anyway, hope you guys are all having a decent Thursday. Hope you guys are winning some of your bets. I know decent baseball slate today, but overall, just kind of trying to take one day at a time. What's up, Whack? Obviously Ricky and Eastside Roller, B-Rad, John A. Thank you, appreciate you. Noticing the new getup. I'm just trying to, look polished off. Now, I'm not like airbrushed for this show like Holden usually is for Sundays, but, I'm trying. All right, so enough of the nonsense. We can go right into the slate. So tomorrow, first game up, Cubs D-backs, Zach Davies, Zach Allen. I believe these two just met recently with a little bit of a swap role where Davies was on the road and Gallen was home. This total's big though, right? Obviously they're expected win to blow out in Wrigley tomorrow, which very well could be. My issue here is, and this is kind of like what I've said all year, right? So the Diamondbacks have value coming into this game, right? They've won 4 straight. They sit here as about a $1.25, $1.30 dog. My issue is, and like I've said, I know that they've won 4 straight, but this is just not a team I want really any part of the rest of the season. Unless they show some true sustainability, because again, this team really has no reason to really want to win games. And you could see it with the way their pitching staff goes, as far as their bullpen, who they choose to put in at certain times, random sitting of good bats. The order's kind of always a bit shuffled. And they swept the Pirates, but how much does that really mean? I don't know if the Pirates have some live sticks, but ultimately it doesn't mean a whole lot. And I know that they took 2 or 3 from the Cubs as well. Look, I'd argue there's value on the Diamondbacks here at plus 125. However, again, I'm just not convinced this team truly wants to win games, and this is a pretty cheap price for a road team in the Diamondbacks who are just woeful. I mean, they've won 11 games on the road this season out of almost 50. So, again, is this line warranted for them? I mean, look, Gallen pitched well last time out versus the Cubs. Probably pitches well here or might pitch well here. But again, you're dealing with weather and you're dealing with 2 pitchers that don't exactly K a lot of guys. At least Gallen's got a decent K rate. Davies does not. Wind blowing out of Wrigley is never fun. Now, Davies gets a lot of ground balls, so that could help the Cubs. But again, this is just not a spot I really want a part of. You could argue for a team total in favor of the D-backs. However, my issue with the team total for the D-backs specifically is it's going to be inflated, right? I don't have the number in front of me, but I'd assume it's got to be 5, right? Total of 11. They're the road team. Even if it's 4.5, it's going to be super big. And how can you love betting the Diamondbacks team total over at 4.5? With how much black hole-ish items there are in that lineup. Overall, I know the Diamondbacks are hitting coming in, but again, they did play the Pirates series. Davies, not exactly a live arm. I know that he had a good season a few years back. Has a decent ERA and can find ways to wiggle himself out of jams. Overall, there's just a lot of arrows going in different directions for me on this game, so I'm going to stay off. I'd argue for slight value in the D-backs, but I've made a commitment this season as of a month or so ago that I'm not going to be betting on the Diamondbacks for the rest of the year. And again, I love targeting spots that have value. I've been burned too much by this team this year, and it's not something that I want to continue to do. So thank you, John A. So John A. Obviously knows the rules for these live videos. Okay, you come in, you give your full name, first name, last name, your social security number, and your flaccid size. Okay, some cool kids will call this the non-erect dick size. That also works too. John A. comes in with the social and then drops the flaccid size after. I expect you guys to do the same, and it's kind of a shame that you don't. So just to give you a quick peek, John A. coming in with the girth. Okay, 2.5 inches. He probably means wide. So good for you, John. Good for you. All right, so let's move on to the next game. Philadelphia Phillies and Atlanta Braves. Zach Wheeler, Max Fried. Look, I mean, what more is there to say about Zach Wheeler in the year he's had? Obviously, a guy that came up with the Mets in that very, very robust starting 5 that they had years back. And he's just been incredible. I love the K rate. I love that his walks have been somewhat down. He does not give up a lot of hard contact at all. His Braves lineup obviously is a bit depleted ever since Ronald Acuna went down, but still been relevant, right? They haven't exactly been bad. However, so this 7.5 total is a very low number for this ballpark in Philly. I can't stress that enough. I think when even when you get like 2 aces that go up against one another in Philly, this number is probably about 7 or 6.5. Then when you take into account the Philly bullpen and the Atlanta bullpen, this number is pretty wild at 7.5. Again, I know Wheeler's been good and Max Fried's been good, and maybe you argue for a first 5 under, but I mean, man, is that a low number in Philly? So for me, a very strong lean at 7.5 over. This is not my best bet for this video, but again, when you talk about park dimensions and finding value inside of totals based on parks and such, I don't have the weather in front of me for this park right now. But it does look like it's going to be, it'll probably be around 85, 90 degrees. When I say I don't have the wind in front of me, which even still from day to night is very difficult to predict. But even if the wind was blowing in like 10, 15 miles an hour, to me, it wouldn't matter. This is a low number for this park. So yeah, call it a very strong lean, 7.5. And again, I know that you have definitely an innings eater in Zach Wheeler. And if Wheeler goes 7 strong here, giving up 2 earned, I mean, look, that's great. But Max Fried would have to match him, right? Because if he pitches the same, then of course the total is not going to have a lot of life. But either way, again, these bullpens are super susceptible. So I like the spot there at 7.5 for over. And again, that has more to do with this number is just super low for this park, especially this time of year in the warm weather. So call that a strong lean. Miami and San Diego. So Joe Musgrove and Thompson's going, right? Yeah, Zach Thompson. What does it say about Thompson? Like he's been tremendous. He's looked really good. And Joe Musgrove, look, we know the deal with Musgrove, right? Needs to get swinging strikes outside of the zone. It's kind of what he relies on when he's getting them. He looks like, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And I'm not even joking. When he's not getting them, he looks like an average at best pitcher because he flirts a lot with corners. And when he has the ump on his side for games, again, he will just pile up strikeouts and get himself out of every jam he finds himself in. But when the opposite is the case, you can watch him walk a bunch of guys, give up home runs. Now, the good part here is obviously in Miami, he's going to be protected by a big ballpark. And the Marlins lineup, of course, helps with all them being mostly righty. And Musgrove is pretty good against right-handed bats. I'd argue here there's a cheap price for the Padres. And I know that you might call it the sharper play, might be on the Marlins here. I personally don't see it. I look at it. I look at a number that's pretty cheap for the Padres. I know you might see $1.50, but like again, this Padres team is so much better than the Marlins. I know the record doesn't exactly indicate all that much because the Marlins have had a good year, especially a year above their standard or what they were expected. And Thompson's been good, but this is a spot for me that makes sense to back the Padres. I would lean here first 5 in favor of the Padres. You could lay the half run to get it a little less vig, but again, this is just a lean from me. I don't love this spot, but I do think that Musgrove playing the Marlins here, a team that is not exactly disciplined by any means at the plate, so Musgrove should be able to wiggle himself out of jams, and I'd expect the Padres to get a few off Thompson. But either way, overall it's an off spot for me. But again, if you want to, I try to give you guys push spots for each game. I push the direction of the Padres first 5 here. Hopefully that moves the needle for you in one way or another. Okay, so what's up, Ray? Bubba Wallace, whack, looking like the Joker with the sliced mouth. Yeah, LOL. Jason Cornell, when the edibles kick in, I wish, Jason. I'm fresh out. Okay, so next up, I don't know why I skipped to that game anyway, but Orioles Nationals. So Jorge Lopez, Patrick Corbin. I'm going to take a sip of the Riesling. There's your typical, for what I would consider a smash spot for the O's lineup, right? Lefty from the National League in Corbin, who's been really, really below average this year. His ERA at 5.66 is very much so warranted. He can't get righties out. He really can't get lefties out. And then you have Jorge Lopez, who is a guy that I've talked up on these shows as a guy that has good stuff. I mean, he really does. He throws heat. He throws like 96, 97. And he's got a really good changeup. But his location is such an issue. You watch him start after start. And not even from a walk perspective, he just leaves a lot of hitter strikes throughout, which becomes obviously difficult for him to wiggle out of every jam he finds himself in. He also has issues with the home run ball. I'd look at a total here, 9.5. I don't mind it. My issue, though, is, again, so you have a total of 9.5 for Baltimore, which is about fair, right? I'd go as far to argue that 9 or 8.5 is a relatively fair number for this park. Obviously, this park totals can go as high as 10.5, sometimes even 11 on egregious levels. So I would argue for slight value in favor of the over with 2 teams expected to get runs. You guys should just know by now, though, that I don't like backing the Orioles team total when it is 4.5, and that's what it is here. They're the home team as well, and not that I think they will win this game 4-3, but if they are winning, they're only going to get 8 at-bats, and so it's just not a spot I want to target in that regard. And while I do think Corbin is going to have issues wiggling through this lineup, this Orioles team has a knack for going innings of droughts. Now, they sometimes at least do the right thing where they get a few hits in the same inning and then they can kind of string them all together to get runs. But I watch this team enough, and they can go through some serious in-game droughts. But again, they should have their spots tomorrow against Corbin. I'd argue for value in favor of the O's money line rather than actually backing their team total. Again, I just think Corbin is built to get to deal with some issues here. But I can't go first 5 either because Jorge Lopez is so tilting to watch. So overall, I would call it a very small lean O's money line. I think that's like plus 115-ish. Let me see what that number is right now in a few spots. Yeah, so plus 110 at most spots. Again, that's a very small lean because I would think over the course of the game, it gives me a little more room. It would give me a little more room to back the O's sticks throughout. And again, the Nats bullpen isn't anything to write home about. So overall, small lean O's money line. Okay, so Red Sox, Yanks. Eduardo Rodriguez, Garrett Cole. Should be a good pitching matchup, right? I mean, Eduardo Rodriguez is a guy that projects very well for the second half of the year here. Quite unlucky with his 5.19 ERA. You look at his advanced numbers, and they're pretty much off the charts relative to his surface. And then Garrett Cole, I mean, just another great year from him. Sticky stuff, no sticky stuff, doesn't really matter. He's just a really good pitcher. And he pitched pretty well against them the last time out. Both these pitchers actually won their starts in the last matchup head-to-head, which was a few games ago. I think Garrett Cole won his start 4 games ago. Against the Sox, Eduardo Rodriguez won his start 5 games ago against the Yanks. However, here at this small price, I know the Yankees lineup is a bit tough to watch, But if you guys remember, I don't know if it was last year or the year before. You guys remember when the Yankees were starting like an entire AA lineup or AAA lineup? It wasn't even like they had like one or two good bats at the top. Like they were dealing with like the entire team was dealing with injuries. I believe this was 20. No, it couldn't have been 2019. Was it 2020? I guess it could have been last year. I don't remember the exact. Maybe you guys remember as well. But there was like a good, I want to say a month or two gap where the Yankees were starting an entire AAA lineup because their entire team was basically in the hospital with multiple injuries. And they were just stringing together wins. I mean, they were just kind of rolling them off win by win. They were playing confident baseball. I'm kind of seeing that from them with this little stretch they've had. They're hitting well. I know a lot of it's coming. I know a lot of their production is coming from the top of their order. But look, production is production. It doesn't necessarily matter where it's coming from. And, here, I mean, this is a super cheap price for Garrett Cole. So call it a lean. Yankees 110. I know Eduardo's been good, and maybe we can even argue the under in this spot. To me, unders this low in Boston are not really fun to back. It's a hitter's park. I mean, don't ever get that twisted. And of course, the Red Sox have pop in their lineup, and so do the Yanks, despite some of the guys that are out. The Yankees have still put up some runs over the last few games. Overall, I would lean the Yanks full game. I know the Yanks have some bullpen issues as well, so maybe first five. It's not going to be a game I bet by any means, but again, looking for some perspective. My perspective is at this number. It's a slight lean in favor of the Yanks. Okay, so that moves us over to Reds and Cardinals. So Tyler Mahle and Wade LeBlanc. Oof, I mean, what is there to say about Wade LeBlanc? This dude is consistently waking up with bird shit on the windshield. The guy, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but he basically throws like an 86-mile-an-hour fastball. His off-speed pitches aren't even that good either. But at the end of the day, he's getting outs. His ERA is good. The surface stuff isn't. And you'll find that ever since my Zach Davies disaster in 2018, I believe it was, might have been 2019, where I kind of found myself chasing Zach Davies' regression. I don't do that anymore. And Wade LeBlanc has regression coming, but when will it come? I mean, that's not something I want to try to predict. Reminds me a lot of John Gant in the respect of John Gant. If you looked at his numbers for the Cardinals, he was going to regress. It was just a matter of when. But if you continue to chase him in all his early starts this year, you were going to be in some severe hot water with your bankroll. And here, it's kind of a similar thing with Wade LeBlanc. Look, you throw a lefty at the Reds. The Reds certainly have enough potent bats to really do some damage. And Tyler Mahle's been good. But the interesting thing with Mahle is like, I mean, man, you watch him pitch. He's got such good stuff, but he tends to walk way too many guys, finds himself in a lot of jams, and doesn't always wiggle himself out like you would hope he could. For me, at 157, I actually think Cincy's a good bet here. Even at 157 money line, I know it's big, but to me, this number should be close to about $1.80. I know why it's 160, right? I mean, obviously the Reds aren't exactly playing blistering baseball, but to me, Wade LeBlanc getting this much credit for a road start against a very potent lineup is a bit wild to me. So I do like the Reds in this spot, and I won't obviously lay 157. Maybe you lay the first five run. I don't like the Reds bullpen either. So, I mean, yeah, it makes even more incentive to lay the first five half run. So call that a lean there in favor of the Reds. Indians Rays, Zach Plesac, Rich Hill. Okay, so if you guys have watched my content earlier in the year, you would know that the Indians are just a terrible team versus left-handed pitching. But those numbers weren't exactly fair, right? Because they were dealing with various injuries. They started to get some of their guys back. And look, they're kind of hitting, and I say kind of because they played some good guys from the Astros recently. But you look at, some of their bats from the right side, and this team got healthy again. They obviously got Jose Ramirez back. They got Framil Reyes back. That's a huge bat for them from the right side. Roberto Perez as well. That's a big bat from them from the right side. So they got healthier from the right side, which to me makes them magically all of a sudden better versus left-handed pitching. And I know that their numbers aren't exactly solid when you look at their season-long numbers, but their season-long numbers are a bit deceiving because they spent a good part of the year with some of their biggest right-handed bats injured, and now they're back. So for me, and I know that I think they traded one of their other good righty bats as well to Seattle, I think. But either way, to me, I like the Indians in this spot as a small dog. They're a little bigger than a small dog. I know that the Rays have been super good. And I know the Rays bullpen is super good. And I'm not a Zach Plesac guy by any means. I mean, this guy is another guy where you look at his advanced stuff and you're like, how is this guy's ERA this low? I mean, it was kind of like the same thing last year. I don't chase regression, though, but I actually like the Indians in this spot. Again, I think they score runs here against Rich Hill. Rich Hill has had a really good year per his standards. He's not walking as many guys. And, of course, the big thing, Rich Hill, right, he's been staying healthy. This is a dude that often gets, like, splinters on his hands or fingers and goes out. Obviously, he throws a lot of the curveballs, so that's what, pushes that in for him often on the DL. But all things considered, I think it's a good spot to back the Indians. At a small tag. Now this might move. Rays have been taking money all season, and I know that the overall perception on the Indians is they can't hit left-handed pitching. I mean, both teams overall can't hit left-handed pitching. But you know what's interesting? I see in different spots that Fleming could be starting, but then I see on ESPN that it's Rich Hill. I mean, they're both lefties, so to me it doesn't. I mean, Fleming is. I mean, to me they're fairly equal pitchers anyway. So it doesn't really matter all that much. But I would, before you confirm if you're going to make this bet or even bet on the Indians, make sure you know who's actually pitching for the Rays. If it helps, I do think Rich Hill is slightly better than Fleming. So if Fleming is throwing, I would actually like the Indians even more. But again, the number I see is about plus 125 in favor of the Tribe. But I'd love that to get to be like plus 140-ish, and then I would actually fire at 140 on the Indians. You could even go first five if you're into the Rays bullpen, you don't want any part of it. Because while that pen has had issues, if you watch them start to start or in between starts, overall collectively, their numbers are really solid, especially the close-end guys. Okay, so moving on to Mets, Jays. My man Yeezy's up there. JSRDJ. What's up, my man? How are you? Reds team total might be an option. I don't mind that at all, B-Rad. In that game. Again, you probably know by now I'm not a big home team total guy, especially when the total is inflated like it is in double digits in this game. So that's why I'd probably lean more the Reds versus that team total. But again, I don't mind it. Okay, so moving on. Mets, Blue Jays. Ty Lore McGill versus Hyun-Jin Ryu. This is an interesting game that I actually want no part of. I have this line actually completely fair at what it is, along with the total. So interesting spot for the Jays. The Jays are going to have to sit one of the guys they often DH. Could be Biggio. Could be, I mean, in my opinion, it actually won't be Biggio because McGill's not a lefty. So Biggio probably plays. But it'll probably be one of their, obviously, outfielders that they end up sitting. Could be Springer. I mean, I guess it could be a few different guys. Teoscar Hernandez. But either way, I do think, of course, this favors the Mets at being in the National League, right? Because the Mets are more accustomed to pitching a pitcher or hitting a pitcher versus, running with a DH. And the Jays are going to lose one of their bigger bats because of this. Again, though, they could swing over Biggio to third base and expand their outfield a bit. But somebody's going to be sitting that normally doesn't. But with that said, do the Mets warrant being $120 here? I mean, I don't know about that. I think the Jays have some good arms at the back end of that bullpen, especially their closer. And the Mets bullpen has just been a complete disaster. So overall, I think the line's fairly fair. Maybe the Mets are a little bigger than they should be. Total 8.5 is fair as well. It's a big number, decent sized number for this park though. But overall, I have this number fair on many accounts. So just going to be a stay away spot. Twins, Angels, J.A. Hop or Hap, as the cool kids say. Versus Alex Cobb. Now, this is a interesting matchup. So Alex Cobb has been really good. However, Alex Cobb, where he's susceptible is against right-handed bats. And we know the Twins come with their fair share of right-handed bats. Now, I believe Nelson Cruz got traded tonight. I thought I heard that. So that's kind of interesting. If that's not telling you the Twins have conceded this season, I don't really know what will. J.A. Happ had a good start to the year, but really since then has been very difficult to love. Alex Cobb, again, is good versus lefties or better versus lefties, one of those reverse splits guys. Angels, though, have a good amount of right-handed bats to cause Happ some trouble. It's a big number. I don't like it over, that's for sure. It's a big number for this park. But with all things considered, I actually lean the Angels here at $1.15. More of that has to do with the fact that the Twins, there's a morale perspective to sports, right? And The Twins getting rid of Nelson Cruz, which let me just make sure before I say that actually happened. Here I am talking about a Nelson Cruz trade. And yeah, so wow. So he's on the Rays now. That's pretty incredible, actually. And good for the Rays. So he might even be in that lineup tomorrow for the Rays. But anyway, so there's a morale thing to this, right? Where if you're any player in the Twins, you basically know the Twins have borderline hung up the season with that Cruz trade. Now, granted, of course, they still have a chance, an outside chance looking in, but it says a lot about what the morale might be for this team. So overall, on the day following up when they traded their best player, or one of their best players, I would not mind at all to back the Angels in this spot at a small number. It looks like $1.15. Again, call that a lean. Brewers, White Sox, Freddie Peralta, Lucas Giolito, local Paisan. Look, what is there to say about these two pitchers, especially Peralta? I mean, what a season from him. Peralta has struggled in his career with severe walk issues. This year in particular, though, he has been really good, and his K rate's been massive. Draws an American League team here, but he gets the benefit of being in the National League Park, so he's going to get basically an entirely free out with Giolito. However, look, I always say this about the White Sox, right? Like, I love targeting the White Sox when they get a good, either a good lefty, because the line always isn't indicative of that, or a bad lefty, of course, for obvious reasons. When they go up against a good right-hander, this team is certainly prone to striking out, and Freddie Peralta will definitely make guys swing and miss in this game. And then on the other end, Lucas Giolito has been really good. I would call this a strong lean, first 5 under the number, which will be 4. But again, when you talk about teams that have this kind of firepower, it's hard to love a total of 4, because you got to figure there's going to be guys that hit multiple. There's going to be guys that hit extra base hits in this game, especially early. And when I say early, the first 5. And again, you're going to find yourself sweating innings, and whether you cash his first 5 or not is going to be on whether or not these pitchers give up a home run or 2. So that's why I don't always love. You don't really ever see me give out first 5s that are 4. I do it occasionally, but really not common. Again, because it's tough, right? Because you get one blow-up inning, and the bet's an entire loser, let alone, and you get a home run or 2, and the bet's a loser. That's why I don't love to bet first 5s when the number is 4. But should be a good pitching matchup. Should be. Giolito should do his way up and down this order with the Brewers, and Peralta's just been super good. It'd be hard to imagine he kind of falters in this start, where the White Sox don't often see him and how good he is. So overall, I'm going to stay away, but call it a small lean on that first 5 under the number of 4. Okay, so moving on. Royals, Tigers. So for those that don't know, there was a contest between me and my father for 10 games. He has been just taking the Tigers every day, which is not something I can fault him for at all. This is a team that's undervalued in the market, especially, and I said this earlier in the year with the Tigers, they're a team I love betting their team totals over when they're hitting. And look at what they're doing. They are hitting. They're a small dog here, and they get one of their better arms going up here against Bubik for the Royals. Look, I'd have to assume my pops is going to go right back to the Tigers in the little contest we're having on Twitter. For me, this will be a stay away spot. I think that first of all, the total for this game is really high, for one thing. And look, the Tigers come in here hitting, so I get that. And the Royals, can kind of find some life from time to time. And they are coming back home. So, take that for what it's worth. However, it is very difficult. Like if you're thinking about backing the Royals here, like you must just not like money, because you got a team that the Tigers is playing really well. They've won 7 straight. And they're an underdog here, which again, you're really going to want to pay $1.25 with the Royals. I get it. The line might be indicative of that streak, and maybe the Royals should be a little bit bigger of a favorite. But says who? I mean, the Tigers have a better record. The Tigers are playing more confident baseball. The Tigers are hitting the ball much better up and down the lineup. Tigers bullpen's playing with much more confidence. To me, I don't see why you would want to back the Royals here. I think the Tigers are a bit cheap, though. I think they should be a bigger dog in this game, all things considered. But I'm not going to step in front of a team like the Tigers that have won 7 straight. So it'll be a stay away spot for me. But again, expect that to be a play from my father. Astros, Rangers, Jake Odorizzi, Kobe Allard. So The Rangers are playing super bad right now, right? They just got swept by the Tigers in 4 straight games. That's why this line is this big, though, right? That's why the Astros are minus 220 here. And look, Allard's a lefty. You throw a lefty at this Astros lineup, it's never fun. Odorizzi hasn't been, very good by any means, though, either. Look, I look at this as a spot where if this line got big enough and somehow, some way, the Rangers team total became like 2.5 at heavy vig, I wouldn't mind that at all. Now, for it to get there, just so we're all clear, the Astros would actually have to climb to be about 280, where the Rangers would be about plus 240 or plus 235, and with a total of 9, their number would wind up being around 2.5 at about $1.40. And that would be a bet. I think you can accidentally score 3 runs against Odorizzi, and the Astros bullpen isn't anything to write home about. I'd argue they're definitely in the bottom 15 of all of baseball, even when they're fully healthy, and they're not. So I think overall it'll be a complete stay away spot for me, but expect the quote unquote chalkiest play on the slate tomorrow to be Astros minus 1.5 runs. And I just, like I said, you can't win betting sports betting against really bad teams when they're going through really bad lulls, because you're paying a tremendous amount of tax on that said bet. Okay. The Astros in this spot realistically probably should be like minus 200. However, I look at this and see minus 225, primarily because Texas has lost 9 straight. And I would never back a team that hasn't won. I mean, that's just silly. But again, when you talk about correlated markets, if this line inflates big enough, and maybe even if this total was to come down to 8.5, you're looking at a spot where the Rangers total could be 2.5. And despite how poorly the Rangers have played, and obviously they've lost 9 straight and just got swept by the Tigers, I mean, they did show some life with the bats today. They scored 5 runs. Now, granted, if you look at their numbers, they had actually scored 2 runs or less in, I think, 6 straight games prior to yesterday, to today. But again, the sticks looked pretty alive today, especially later. They had a few extra base hits. They had some runners in scoring position. Very patient at the dish. I think they walked 6 or 7 times. Look, if they can roll that right into this Astros series and find a little life with the sticks, maybe. All in all, I'll stay away, but I'll monitor this line because, again, if the Astros do inflate to about 280, I may want to jump in on the Rangers team total if I can get 2.5 at about $1.35. Okay, so next game. Giants, Pirates. Johnny Cueto, Chad Kuhl. Look, Cueto is a super interesting pitcher, right? Because he is somebody that I struggle to get right when I do back him. I don't back him often or fade him often, but even when I've done it in rare occasions, he's just not a guy I really get right. And then Chad Kuhl, I mean, he's not a bad arm. I mean, his advanced stuff is almost on par with his surface, almost. The thing with this series is the Pirates come in swinging some healthy sticks. I mean, I know that they got swept by the Diamondbacks. I still felt like they got some decent runs up, 4-6, 2. I mean, the 2 obviously was an issue, but even if you go back to the starts prior, 6 runs, 9 runs, they beat up that Mets bullpen when they played them. And they played the Mets, I think, like 7 or 8 straight games. So to me, you get a team in the Pirates whose sticks are live, and Cueto is definitely susceptible to giving up runs. I know that San Francisco ballpark's a bit much in terms of in favor of pitchers. But for me, you're looking at a line of 8.5, total of 180. You may be able to get the Pirates team total at about 3-ish. It's not a crazy bad bet. I think this is a team that really has some life with the sticks, and they have some good lefties. So overall, I would lean the Pirates over their team total at 3. I think I just think their sticks are super live. And Cueto is not a pitcher that, again, but he's a guy I don't get right. So take that for what it's worth. But overall, that would be my lead for the game. Mariners and Athletics, Yusei Kikuchi, Frankie Montes. This will be my best bet for the video. I like the Mariners first 5 here. So Mariners first 5 minus 105. If you guys remember, the last time I was kind of streaking, it wasn't nearly as egregious as this, but the last time I was kind of streaking in a negative manner, it was my boy Yusei Kikuchi that got me right back into the winners column and was able to help me out. And then was able to help myself anyway, build some confidence to go on a nice little winning streak as well. I think this is another really good spot for him. So you look at the Oakland lineup, right, and you see a lot of big right-handed bats, and you assume this team probably rakes against lefties. They really don't. I mean, yeah, sure. As far as home runs go, they do, but like as far as their average goes, no. As far as like extra base hits go, they're right on average. I'd argue at best in terms of the league. In terms of their batting average, I think they're like 8th worst or 7th worst in all of baseball. So for me, and Yusei Kikuchi pitched pretty well against them earlier in the year. I don't look too much at that though. I just think that either you get a pitcher on his day or you don't. I don't necessarily like look at that and I'm like, oh wow. And as for the Mariners, it's a team that's been hitting, and I know that some Mariners fans, seem to always pop up whenever I fade this team. But this is a team that is, I guess, relatively healthy with their sticks, and they find ways to manufacture runs. Now, granted, sometimes they're a tough team to watch. They certainly can strike out a lot, especially against left-handed pitching, and against guys that K. Often they can pile up strikeouts in that regard as well. But you look at a team here that's just been hitting. I know they just played at Coors and they didn't exactly put up like crazy numbers, but it's a team that's been hitting. I mean, four? If we even exclude the last game, and you're talking 3 runs in 5 straight. And even before that, they weren't exactly like dead with their bats. So Frankie Montes has been pretty good. I think he's had borderline like 5 or 6 straight quality starts. Not to say he's due for like a blow up type start, because that's not even the case ever in terms of pitchers being due. But first of all, I do like that Yusei Kikuchi is coming off 2 awful starts. First of all, his last start I think was severely unlucky. If you look at his xFIP from that start, it was 3.82. He gave up some home runs that likely wouldn't have been home runs in other ballparks. And look, that kind of stuff cascades, right? One thing Kikuchi was doing when he was in the middle of his electric run, I'll call it from the beginning of June to the beginning of July, where he basically gave up like 4 earned over 30 innings. He is kind of regressing a bit in that regard now, but I think now is a good time to jump back on the Kikuchi train. He's got back-to-back starts where his batting average on balls in play was over 400. I mean, that's just not something that's going to sustain itself. Now, I know that he had a lot of hard contact, right? And his ERA was up to the moon. And the start against the Yankees was not a good one by any means. Okay, that was an ugly start. His advanced number said it was an ugly start. Again, the Angels start, I don't look at too much as a bad one. But again, you play the Angels, who have a bunch of potent righties, and the Yankees who have a bunch of potent righties. And then he goes up against the Blue Jays, who have a bunch of potent righties. And then the White Sox, bunch of potent righties. And overall, I think that he was due for a few bad starts. Okay, faced a ton of good bats. Maybe he got lucky in some of his other starts where he pitched well. He had some regression coming. Here is now a good time, I think, to jump back on the Kikuchi train, primarily because, first of all, the Oakland Athletics are not nearly as good as people think, or people might think or perceive, against left-handed pitching. Despite all those right-handed bats, and despite the fact that they're super healthy, they're just not as good as it would appear or could be, or would be, against lefties. And Kikuchi is a guy that, as long as he's getting ground balls, will be relatively okay. Now, the Mariners do tend to have some issues, do tend to have some fielding woe issues, but that's relatively been corrected over a series of a recent amount of games. And overall, this is a team that has their healthy bats. And Frankie Montes, let me just pull up a few things on him real quick. He obviously, I've said this for a while, even going back to when he got nabbed for steroids. He's a guy that throws an extremely live fastball. I think he even can top 97, 98 at times. He's got decent off speed stuff as well. And yeah, I mean, like I was saying, so he's gone 5 or 6 innings with 2 earned in basically like 7 of 8 starts, which is really good. He's done a good job of navigating through multiple lineups, and he faced Seattle a while back, and he kind of didn't pitch that well against them either. But again, like I said with the Kikuchi thing, I don't look at that as all that amazing. As far as like, oh well, I'm going to back this pitcher because 3 months ago he shut this team out. I mean, that stuff doesn't make any sense. Again, you will get a pitcher on their day or you won't. Here, though, I think you have a confident Mariners team with their sticks, and I think it's a cheap price. And I think that for their record, they're not getting nearly enough respect here. And that bullpen's okay. I know that there's some people that think that this bullpen is like super elite. I'm not personally there yet with them, but I do think they have some good arms for sure. I prefer the first 5 here, though. I do think that they get more to the Athletics than the A's will. And I think the price isn't fair. To me, Seattle should be favored in this game, first of all. So the fact that they're 105 to me is already an issue. And they should be favored first 5. I mean, for sure. To me, they should be lined here at about $1.25. They've done nothing to say that they deserve to be a home underdog here with one of their better starting arms going against a very Jekyll and Hyde-ish pitcher in Frankie Montes, who has been consistent recently. But again, I'll call it a little bit of luck in his favor. And I get the other pitcher on the other end who's had a little bad luck in his favor the last few starts. Kind of like that perfect storm. And I think we're getting value there at 105. So again, Mariners, first 5, money line, minus 105. Ricky Chan brings up a good idea. Like the video, D-bags. Okay, it ain't hard. Let's go ahead and here. I'll show you a quick thing. Boom, like the video. Okay, so last game, last but not least, I'll take another sip of the Riesling. David Price, Chichi Gonzalez, Dodgers, Rockies. Obviously, they've moved Price into a starter role as the Dodgers are dealing with a bit of starting pitcher injury. Who specifically is out for them? Is it also it's Bauer? Oh, actually, and Kershaw. So now it makes sense for why he's kind of been slotted in. What is there to say about the Rockies, though, right? The Rockies' road woes. This team on the road is woof. Woof is right. Looking at a line here of 204 or about 200, I'm sorry. And Rockies at about $1.80, $1.85 pending your spot, total of 9. I'll start by saying this is a seemingly big number for this park. And I know that Chichi Gonzalez has been bad and David Price is certainly susceptible. But woof, total of 9 in this park. You're basically going to need a lot of help from the Dodgers to get here, you would think. Now, the Rockies have certainly right-handed potent bats, but it's hard to not at least understand these road numbers that the Rockies have put up this year and how historically bad they've been on the road. Now, will that median out? It could. Does that leave some potential spots in the market for where there's value? Yes. So maybe for me personally, you take the 1.5 with the Rockies here. And to me, it's not like the Dodgers are playing all that excellent baseball anyway. I know that they're kind of in a bit of a back and forth with the Giants, and they've lost 2 or 3. And today is one of the rubber matches, and it's 1-1 in the second. But it's not like the Dodgers are lighting things up, but the Dodgers are giving up runs. I mean, they're basically giving up runs in every game. And they just played the Rockies in Colorado, where Colorado hit the ball pretty well. But again, we know the home road splits for the Rockies. Again, I'm just not in love with this Dodgers starting starting rotation right now, and for obvious reasons. Their bullpen has had its own issues. And you include the blown save yesterday from Jansen. Call it a small lean, grabbing the 1.5 with the Rockies in a start where I just think this line is super inflated, and this line has all to do with the fact that the Rockies can't win a road game, and the markets are starting to adjust to that. And I think here they've adjusted a little too far. So, yes, call it a small lean, 1.5 in favor of the Rockies. So, as always, folks, that will wrap up the video. Wrote in my best bet there. Mariners first 5, money line, minus 105. That will also be my contest video. And Jay pops in. Don't even know what's happening in this video right now. Is there anything confusing, Jason? I mean, if there is, just let me know. I'm trying to understand how somebody could be watching this video and be confused at what's going on. Maybe you're referencing the fact that I have 2 chains on, maybe. Or maybe it's the fact that the Riesling wine is being drank out of an Appressina Vikings beer mug. But look, I don't judge you, right? I'm just kidding. Ray brings up a good point. If you don't like the video, I hope you wake up with a hornet's nest. Yeah, I mean, Ray, we could certainly relate there. Guys, as always, thank you for watching. Hope you found the video helpful pending the time you watch it. Obviously, you're watching live. Great. If you're watching, exactly, River Rat Clown Show. If you watch it tomorrow, then again, I hope you find the content helpful. But again, for me, Mariners first 5 it'll be my contest pick. I'd assume my dad will have the Tigers tomorrow again as a dog. Maybe he'll go first 5. But regardless, thanks as always for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed this video, let me know, whether it's in the comment section here or after the video, because maybe I can switch this for you. I could do a Thursday live video weekly instead of doing a Thursday solo vid. So let me know. Let me know if you found it helpful. Either way, thank you as always for watching. Like the video if you haven't already. D-bags, be a nice gentleman or woman, whatever, we don't judge on this channel. But yes, again, guys, thank you for watching. Check us out, runpurebets.com, see what we're all about. Fun weekend coming up in sports on the channel. Obviously, I'll have a few live shows in baseball. Joey, UFC. Keg, some more live shows for UFC, NASCAR. Also some breakdowns with Coop for NASCAR. Breakdown for a UFC fight. We have some Olympic stuff going on. And we also have some fun tennis matches coming up. Maybe we can get spread to do some videos there as well. But either way, should be a fun weekend, folks, gambling-wise. But as always, gamble responsibly. Never promoting anybody to do anything outside their means. But all in all, again, thank you, everybody, for watching. Be sure to gamble responsibly. Stay safe. And as always, folks, run pure. See you on Saturday.